Hi, I'm Queenie. I'm currently on my third co-op and going into my 2B term of Systems Design Engineering at the University of Waterloo. This week, I'm going to bring you along into the life of a product design intern at Palantir in New York City.
This summer, I lived in Midtown Manhattan, a 15-minute subway or a 30-minute walk from the Palantir office in Chelsea. I got to work around 9:30, in time to grab a bite before diving into work for the day. Design at Palantir, even as an intern, comes with a lot of ownership, meaning each day is to your own judgment of how a problem is solved rather than following a particular process or using particular tools. Some days, it's sitting in front of a computer iterating on details of an interface or writing up documents to keep track of research findings. Some days, it's spontaneously jamming together on a particular tricky problem. The design team also regularly holds critiques whenever we need fresh eyes. So to ask a bit more questions about designing at Palantir, I've also invited Mark here, who is the design group lead for one of the products here called Foundry. Mark, what do you think is particularly unique or special about designing at Palantir?
If I were to identify two main things, it would be one, the level of autonomy. We're a small team, but you also get an incredible amount of ownership and autonomy compared to other places that you might work in a larger organization. I think that's pretty surprising and unique. The second thing is the difficulty and challenging nature of the problems we work on. We work on hard problems that are complex, but also have real-world significance, and I think that's one of the unique advantages of working here.
So to get some more perspectives on interning here at Palantir, especially as a design intern, I've also brought along my friend, Sharon. She's currently a rising senior at Claremont McKenna College in Claremont, California. What do you think is something that's particularly different or unique about being a design intern?
I just can see it being a lot harder to design at Palantir versus other companies. I think it's very easy to be exasperated from the get-go, and I know a lot of people use a term it's like drinking out of a fire hose. So ramping up was very difficult for me, and I know for a lot of other people. And it's kind of up to you to be resourceful and proactive because there is a very heavy pull culture here. But I think with that being said, you are in the hands of very talented, smart people who are very willing to help if you ask them.
So to get a perspective on from another side, I have my mentor here, Elisa. Do you want to tell us more about how the internship is structured and the mentor-menteeship type of thing?
So I think interns have a little more support than full-times in terms of the structure. So if a full-time would have just a lead who is there for their long-term growth and just kind of general guidance, interns get mentors and leads, which is kind of a nice way to have support from different sides. Lead still plays a very similar role, less of a day-to-day, but more of the overarching growth. And mentors are more someone who's there to be able to provide feedback on your work, make sure you're doing okay, and get you coffee and ice cream when you need to talk about something. Yeah.
Between working, I also make sure to set up one-on-one time with other designers to chat over coffee. I think one really special thing is how close the design team is despite being all over the world. We make sure to get together for team dinners, destroy each other at bananagrams, and insult each other just enough. So to get a better idea of what products you can work on at Palantir, I've also invited our platform lead for Gotham, Ashley. But yeah, Ashley, could you tell us more about what Palantir Gotham is?
Yeah, so Gotham is our platform for intelligence and defense communities. So without Gotham, our users tend to work in a lot of different silos. So for example, their data it lives across all these different systems. They tend to collaborate primarily over email, and it's really hard for institutions to share data. So what Gotham does is integrates all of the data into one place so that users can manage and search their data in a single place, Gotham. And then we can also have a consistent story for things like auditing, permissioning, data security, and things like that. And then so we build a suite of tools on top of Gotham, things like Graph to help people understand relationships across the data, Gaia to do geospatial analysis and mission planning, and things like Dossier to build out really rich intelligence reports.
So this summer I've been working on an application called Gaia. Could you talk about how that fits into Palantir Gotham?
Yeah, so Gaia is very useful for a lot of like geospatial data, so doing like analysis on data that has both like a location and a time. And again, since Gotham integrates data from a lot of different sources, it's nice to like view all of that data within a single place. And then also on more like the defense side, it's really helpful for doing sort of like more mission planning and operations and things like that.
Over this summer, I got to work on a more conceptual project on the product called Gaia, like Ashley said earlier. A big part of being a designer is getting to hear from users, living in their shoes, and understanding their problems. Because Palantir clients are global, we also get to travel to all sorts of different places, but that also comes with paperwork, especially if you're an international intern.
So if you're not a US citizen, but you are here for an internship or any sort of training program, you're admitted under a J1 visa. So if you're traveling to Canada or Mexico, you do not need a signature on your form, which is called a DS 2019, that says you're authorized for travel. But anywhere else in the world, you have to make sure that that area is signed, or else you will not be able to be readmitted into the US under the J1. I do want to take this chance to remind everyone about like the logistics part of working internationally. It's not the fun part to talk about, but it's definitely important, and make sure that you are not getting into any sort of like legal complications. But let's cross our fingers that I will be admitted back into the States, if ever. I'm kidding, it's gonna be fine, but yay. London's great. If you want to like, ooh.
The question that was asked was, what was my biggest learning this term? And I would say my biggest learning is directly related to the responsibility and autonomy that I talked about earlier. When you're owning a project, it doesn't mean that someone is going to give you all the answers on a silver platter, especially at a place where, for example, your mentor or your lead isn't directly embedded in the project that you're doing. I think those relationships are actually even more important to develop, instead of thinking, oh, I'm only here for so long, I don't really need to like meet everyone I need. Being independent also means learning how to depend on other people. And lastly, a question that I got from quite a few people was, what is it like working in New York City? I think when you're working somewhere, especially for an internship, what you really have to take advantage of is learning how to be a local, learning what it's like to live in the city. It's like joining new communities, meeting new people, doing activities that you wouldn't normally do. I think one really big thing that made my summer the way that it was going out of my comfort zone to kind of immerse myself in, for example, the performing arts community, and being able to make friends there. The projects that kind of blossom out of that really helped me understand like why some people are in New York and why New York is as busy and bustling and beautiful that it is. And of course, all the amazing food.
Cheers!
Thanks for joining me this week. This wraps up our first season of 16 Weeks of Internships. If you've been with us all summer, we thank you. If you're catching this video in the future, be sure to check out the rest of our videos. We have some plans brewing of what we want to do with this in the future, so if you have any feedback or suggestions, please let us know through DMing us on Instagram or commenting down below. Huge shout out to everyone who helped make this happen, and we hope we're able to be helpful to those who might be curious about what a variety of internships might look like. Catch you next time.